All right, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Leading Through Unprecedented Times. With me today, we've got a National Superintendent of the Year, and congratulations, Joe Sanfelippo, 2020 Education Dive's Superintendent of the Year from Fall Creek, Wisconsin, home of the
Fall Creek Crickets, baby.
Joe, tell our listeners, if you could here, just a little bit about yourself, where you're at, background, and so on.
So my name is Joe Sanfelippo. I'm the superintendent in the Fall Creek School District, home of the Fall Creek Crickets, and we are a rural school district in Northwest Wisconsin. 850 fantastic kids, an incredible village of 1,300 people, all with the same mindset to make sure that we provide the best opportunity for kids. And so this is my ninth year as a superintendent here, and is it my ninth? Yes, my ninth superintendent year, 10th overall. And I just couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with and to lead with. And I think the time like that we're living through right now really brings out the character and the people that you work with. And I have I'm so proud of the work that they've done up to this point. But then all of a sudden you see what they do in this time, and you're like, my goodness, these people are amazing.
Joe, you are somebody that is just such a merchant of hope. You are that beacon for so many people. Every week you're putting out your 1-minute walks and just giving people just ideas to really think about, but also that just gives people hope and just why we do this work. So in the chaos of our world right now, we've got these national shutdowns, these shelter in places. We have all the reasons out there not to have hope. But I know that you do, and I know educators need it. We all need it. So what's something in our world right now that gives Joe Sanfelippo hope?
Well, the first thing is that I look better than you on this podcast because of my ear headphones. But the second, I think the thing that gives me hope is that I am sitting here in my office connecting with teachers from our district who are connecting with kids. And though everything has been completely disheveled and everything has been like just knocked to the side, everything is just, all up in arms. The core of who these people are really is about building a relationship with kids that wasn't there before. And this is just a different opportunity for them to do that. Like, I think one of the things that we talked about before we even got into this situation was the two questions that are going to be answered unequivocally are when everything starts. The two questions are, how well do we know our kids, and what are we willing to do for them when they're not here? In our group, if you want to talk about hope, my goodness, like those two questions were answered like from the start, like from the jump, man. We knew what our kids needed. We knew who, needed more access. We knew who needed food. We knew who needed more help. We knew, what kids were going to be taking care of other kids, that kind of thing. And the second piece that gives me even more hope than the first piece is what our educators have done in the past couple weeks to really provide an opportunity for kids that wasn't there before. I mean, these people are going out of their way around every turn to make sure that our kids have a better opportunity to be successful.
That's awesome. And for those of you that are just listening on the audio channel for Joe's little headphone comment, what I want you to do is picture a big pair of earmuffs and put those on for the good wintertime. Tried to go Joe, a really good friend. So he's allowed to give me a hard time.
Of course.
So, to be real serious though, especially there you are in rural Wisconsin, this, the magnitude of the pandemic that's happening has really brought a lot of additional issues to light. So what are some of the obstacles that you've been dealing with over the past couple of weeks, and how is your team working through some of those?
Well, I think there are two things that have been real obstacles for us. One is connectivity. And I think, we're providing everybody with anything they need. If they need a hotspot, if they need a Chromebook, if they need, any kind of access that they need, we're trying to provide that. But when you provide a hotspot to rural Wisconsin, it doesn't matter if you have one hotspot, 10 hotspots, it doesn't matter. Like, they're not getting the signal. So what it really kind of came down to how are we making sure that we can get these people what they need from just a connection standpoint. And we're not even talking like an internet connection. We're talking about making sure that it's a human connection. So, our job in the first couple of days was to make sure that every kid had a positive contact with an adult at school. school, and then another positive contact with an adult at school. And then guess what, Tom? Another positive contact with a kid, with an adult at school. And then we can start talking about what the academic piece of this really looks like. But you can't do anything academically if you don't know where they sit from a connection standpoint, from from a mindset standpoint. And that was a huge challenge for us. I think the other challenge for us is really our educators not knowing when their day starts and ends, because they're working so hard that sometimes they're working harder now than they worked when they were here. And I can promise you that, because they're never off. They're never off. Like you have kids that are taking care of their loved ones until 3 or 4 o'clock, and they can't even get to their work until then. And then there's a conversation that needs to be had with the teacher or with the paraprofessional or whatever. Those things have to happen into the evening hours. So our people, I fear that our people will burn themselves out, even if we set parameters for what it could look like or should look like. I really believe that we have people that care so much about kids that they're taking care of everybody else's kids before they take care of themselves and their own. And that's something that we need to be very, very cognizant of.
Yeah, no, we certainly do. And Joe, you're such an advocate, obviously, for people, and that radiates in all of your work. But let's talk about some of your neediest students, those students that are most at risk. And so I know you've touched on a couple of things already, but I've seen Fall Creek really prioritize, whether it's through food or whatever the case might be. How are we keeping our students? And let me back up just from the standpoint from a Future Ready Schools end. Like, equity is so core to our work. Equity and access, something you've already addressed. Equity and opportunity. So whether it's through financial needs or burdens, or sometimes through race and traditionally marginalized groups, or whatever have you, how do we make sure that our those groups that are really most in need, that are always should be on our radar regardless, stay on that front burner, so we don't lose sight of those, so that these gaps aren't increasing? So how do we keep those students at the forefront?
So the first thing is, the first question that we had to ask ourselves was, how well do we know our kids? So if we know what they're struggling with and how we can help them through that struggle, that was the first piece. But then there's also a faction of this community that needs help, that didn't want to ask for help because of the pride that they have. And so we had to make sure that we were not only connected to the person or to the family, but somebody who's also connected to the family that might know them a little bit more than we do. And if we make enough connections where we have this web of people that are willing to reach out and make sure that the parent is okay, that the family is okay, that the student is okay, I think that helps us in that regard. The other thing that we have to be very cognizant of from a teaching standpoint is that when we get so excited about the tool, like everybody's going to jump on a Zoom meeting and everybody's going to have a classroom meeting at 8 o'clock, and it's going to be fantastic because we're going to see everybody's face. That's awesome for the 28 of the 25 of the 28 kids that can be in that room. But guess what happens? Those 3 kids that can't get that access, even if they can watch the video after, they automatically become part of a group that's not in the clique, that's not in the popular group, that's not in the preferred group or whatever, because they can't be there at the time that everybody's meeting. And though you might have provided the information to that group, you haven't provided the opportunity to that group because they are no longer part of that group. So we have to be very careful about what kind of activities or expectations we have for families and for kids, because if our activities are not asynchronous, then we're automatically excluding a group of people that might actually need it the most. So our job is, if we have to have those things to make sure that we can get some work out there, we also have to make sure that the 3 kids that aren't part of that are part of that in some regard, through multiple phone calls, through multiple emails, through a letter, through driving to the house. I just walked out. I was just down the street as we were delivering food and materials to a house that needs it, right? Like, these are the things that our people are doing, and they don't even think about it. They just do it because they care about kids. But if we don't know what they need, that's on us for not asking the right questions in terms of what they need.
Yeah, so well said. And it also shows the heart of the people at Fall Creek, which is something that radiates from everything you do. So let's talk about fear for a little bit. Somebody watching this might look, I led in with, your superintendent of the year, and might be thinking, well, there's somebody that, I'm sure he's got it all together, is not fearful in these situations. But we know that's not the case. What is it that keeps Joe Sanfelippo up at night? And in the same sense, when we talk about fear, how do we work to overcome those fears? Or how are we encouraging our educators to overcome those fears? People are looking at you as the superintendent, as a leader. How do you do that?
I think, oh man, that's a really good question, because I think that I fear so much. Like it's really interesting, because there are months throughout the course of the year, and it's like clockwork, from probably late October to um mid-March, maybe late March, early April. I don't sleep through the night at all, ever. I never have since I've taken this job, because I have a recurring dream that there's going to be a snow day that I missed, and all these kids are coming to school and they shouldn't be coming to school, and somebody gets hurt. It's happened for 9 years. The funny thing about that is that dream has changed. It's not about because kids aren't coming to school. So there's no reason that I should wake up in the middle of the night wondering if there's going to be a snow day, right? But I wake up because I think, did we get the information to that person? Did we get the information to that kid? Is this kid going to have food tomorrow? Those are the things that I struggle with. And I have to, when I go back to sleep, the thing that I think about is our people. I trust our people so much to know and understand what the kids that and the families that they care for need, that it shouldn't keep me up, because I know our people are totally invested in the work that they're doing. It's about caring for kids and caring for those who care for kids. And if we keep that at the core of who we are, and we ask every day, every single day, to every kid that we talk to, how are you doing? And do you need anything? And if your conversation starts there, there's much less to be fearful of.
Yeah, so well said. You know, Joe, as the superintendent, and just hearing that your passion radiate, you're somebody that's taking care of your people and doing everything you can to take care of your people. But my question for you is this: as that superintendent, that where your community is looking towards you, your kids are looking towards you, your administrators, your teachers, the world's looking at you in Fall Creek. How are you taking care of yourself in this process? And what advice do you have for others to, like you said, disconnect at times or whatever it may be, so they take care of themselves in the process?
Well, I still have my scheduled haircut. So I think the thing about this whole process, Tom, honestly, I got to joke, honestly, and that's part of this. It's actually part of the answer. You got to laugh. You really do. You have to provide some sense of joy in this work. And if you can find joy in anything in the work, then it doesn't feel like as much work. And so every morning I've been reading stories to our school community on our Facebook page, 8 o'clock every morning. If you want to jump on the Facebook page, it's going to happen as long as we're gone. Fall Creek School District Facebook page, 8 o'clock every morning. A couple books and a magic trick every single morning for kids. And it's great for kids, obviously, because we get a chance to read. We start with a story. It's also fantastic for parents. And we tell parents, go away. Like, you don't need to be here. Go get 20 minutes, get away from this thing, get some coffee, check your social, whatever you want to do, like, get away from it. Right. And then, but to be really brutally honest, I have absolutely loved starting my day like that, because it gives me a tremendous amount of energy, because I know kids are watching, I know families are watching, and I also know that families are taking a break during that time. And I get a call from one family, a FaceTime call, every day that I've done this. I get a call from them every single day, and from the youngest one telling me that the magic trick that I did wasn't real. Like, I know how you did it. I know how you did. You hid the quarter behind your ear. I know it. I saw it every day. And to me, it's turned into, like, she didn't call one day, and I'm like, well, what happened? So I called them. I'm like, come on. You got nothing? That trick was that good? Come on. I just understand that. Please, people, understand, I'm magic. This is what happens. It's no trick here, Tom. It's just magic.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've caught some of those episodes. Absolutely fabulous. Let me ask you just a couple more questions here before we wrap up. You take such pride in Fall Creek. I don't think there's been a day that I've connected with you or seen you post on social media that you haven't talked about being proud of your people, loving living there, because I know you literally live across the street from where you work. What is it, and all the pride that you have around Fall Creek? We're in such a different time right now. As you lead through this adversity, what is Joe Sanfelippo most proud of right now in Fall Creek?
Man, the thing that I'm most proud of is everything that we espouse to be inside of these walls is now being seen outside of these walls by the people who should see that. And that's the people in our community first. We have an incredibly supportive community, but I think they're a very supportive community in that they just take pride in the cricket name. They take pride in what happens when they see it on the social piece of it. But I don't know if they got a chance to live it until their kids came home and saw the great connections that our people are making with their students in a time where it's much harder to make connections with students because of because of the situation that we find ourselves in. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it means it's a little bit more difficult. And so for me, I am more proud of our staff today than I have been since I've been here. And I think Tom, how proud I am of these people. That I'll shout to anybody, man. I'll roll with this crew any day of the week, right? But when I see what they do beyond what they're expected to do, I just sit back and I smile. I was in this morning. I was watching our support staff put meals together. And honestly, Tom, I couldn't even talk. I just sat there and I stared at them. And I think that they thought it was a little bit creepy. And that's fine. That's fine. But I just sat there and I stared at them because they're coming in early. They're risking their own health to make sure that the other kids have what they need. And I just sat there and stared at them and thought, these are our people. These are the people that are willing to go beyond anything, beyond a reason, anything, to take care of kids. And I'll roll with them any day.
That's awesome, man. It gives me chills, my friend. One final question for you, and then I'll let you run. You know, educators coast to coast, they're all over the map. Some are running with this super comfortable. Some are they have the paralysis of fear and they're not sure what to do next. They're afraid to make a mistake. And I could say the same thing about principals, same thing about superintendents. If you could give one piece of advice to educators right now in the midst of the chaos that we're all in, what would it be?
Well, let's be real clear about something. Nobody's crushing this, all right? Like on the surface, they might say that they are. Everybody's struggling with it on some level because either you're struggling with it because you can't see the people that you care about the most every day when it comes to kids. You can't connect with your colleagues every day like you do and get that energy. And you know that some kids are in a place that the 8 hours that they're with you throughout the course of the day is the safest place for them. So let's be very clear. Nobody is feeling great about what's going on here. I can't imagine that at all. Everybody's struggling with something, right? But the piece of advice that I would give to everybody as they work through that struggle is find things in your day that bring you joy. And if that joy is the connection to kids, don't stop at anything to make sure that connection happens. Don't stop with the email or the call or think, oh my gosh, they can't get back to me. Another call, another email, another, a trip to the house just to like knock on the door, pull 10 feet back just to say hello, make sure that they know that you care about them. Stop it. I mean, these are the things that are hard. This is hard work, but it gives you joy, right? The connection gives you joy. We got into this work for the connection. And that's where the piece of advice that I would give is continue anything that you can do to keep that connection at the forefront of every conversation. It's not about math. It's just not, man. It's not about reading. It's about connecting and making sure that these kids have a daily learning opportunity to get better in terms of where they are and make sure that the families feel like you're committed to them, like you're committed to them.
Joe Sanfelippo, everybody. Joe, thanks for your time. Thanks for your time today, and keep leading the way.
No, my pleasure, my friend. Have a great day. And everybody out there, just keep working. You're doing great, and we're going to do the best we can here. All right?